It's time now for a new perspective with Mike Sherbino and Julie Stautland. Few things in our busy lives can take us away from it all like a good story. If only for a few hours, taking a mini vacation to see blockbuster films like Baz Luhrmann's new epic about Elvis Presley or Tom Cruise's Top Gun thriller is a welcome break from all our worries. Since the beginning of film, Hollywood has portrayed God at the movies, from the Ten Commandments to The Mission. And faith-based film has evolved into its very own genre. Today, Jordan Harmon from Angel Studios, producers of mega hits The Chosen, Tuttle Twins, Pharma, and many others, is here to talk about the evolution of Jesus on the big screen.
Welcome today. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Julie Stautland, and today we have Mitch Hunter with us. Mike's away this week. Thank you so much for joining us, Mitch.
Julie, thanks for having me, and I'm just excited. We've got a guest, Jordan, today, and he's a movie lover, and I know both of us are movie lovers as well.
You know, it's hard to find someone who isn't a movie lover, so I want to jump right in there and welcome Jordan to the show. Thank you so much for joining us from Angel Studios.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here, guys.
You know, listen, this is really taken off, and I just want to start, like, Angel Studios has become so successful. Tell us about your evolution and how this came to be and why you think you've grown so quickly.
That is an awesome question. It's, honestly, when people look at any success story or any company, they usually look at it in terms of like what they see today. Mm-hmm. This is really, almost over a decade in progress, where we've been going through the process of building this company. And so we ended up in 2013, 4 brothers and a cousin, launching a company called VidAngel. And that was, the goal was to be able to allow parents to skip anything they didn't want to see.
Let me jump in there for a second. You said 4 brothers and a cousin. I just playing my mind, how did that come to be? Were you sitting around like hanging out one day going, we should do this? Like, what was the spark? Why?
It was an ongoing conversation because we all felt like we had kids and we felt like none of the content we were seeing, or at least most of it, wasn't representative of what we wanted our kids to see and experience on a daily basis. And so, matter of fact, we were trying to actually pay off some family debt. And so Neil was living upstairs with his wife and family, and I was living downstairs with my wife and family. And so we were just talking about this over the months and really probably a year. And then I came home one day, because Neil is a more technical coder, and he goes, "Jordan, come check this out." And he's like, "I figured out a way to like skip and mute stuff so that our kids don't have to see it." And I'm like, "Oh, that's fantastic." Anyway, so that's how it started. But what the goal was, how do we create an audience that we can then build original content around? Mm-hmm. So we built VidAngel, to well over 1 million customers. And then, the big studios didn't like what we were doing, and they tried to shut us down, and they ended up suing us, which was a painful 4 years.
That's never fun.
Wow.
No, and long story short, in the end, we ended up settling with the studios, and quite frankly, it was a miracle that we even lived. But during that time period, because we had wanted to create, original content, it just expedited that process, where we weren't planning to create original content that quickly. And so we jumped it a little faster than we were expecting. And we started with Dry Bar Comedy, which is now viewed over 1 billion times a year and is one of it is the largest stand-up comedy database there is out there. And then we were looking for, what would be that first original series piece that would really propel us. Netflix, their House of Cards series is what moved them into the forefront of the entertainment world, and it gave them this incredible customer base. We obviously didn't want to do something like House of Cards, but we wanted something that would be extremely engaging and entertaining. And Matthew Ferracci sent my brother Jeff this short film called The Shepherd, and it was directed by Dallas Jenkins for his church. And after Jeff and Neil saw it, they said, "This is why we created VidAngel." And so we, and Dallas was hesitant, but we were able to, through some discussion and time and trust, he was able to say, "Hey, you know what? Let's make this the House of Cards of Angel Studios."
Right on. So Jordan, let me jump right in.
The Chosen. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, we're thinking about House of Cards, Netflix, some of these other studios. Do you think Hollywood does a poor job at showing God in film? Or do you think sometimes people like the less in your face, more nuanced, faith-based films?
I think there's a combination of both. I actually believe that if done in a way that doesn't feel like you're shoving it down their throat, people like representations of God. Matter of fact, we were talking to a really close friend now, and he was telling us how they had done a bunch of surveys on what was the sentiment towards God and Jesus Christ in society and in the community. And it's actually quite positive. Where people feel negative is they feel negative because they have some bad interaction or engagement with a Christian. And what ends up happening is they then assume we as humans who make so many mistakes, if we're Christian, then clearly they don't want to be involved with anything that's Christian or God-oriented. But if you just take the concept of Jesus, someone who's loving, compassionate, full of grace, people love that concept and they love him. But it's and so society as a whole, I think, is longing for stories that are telling more and more about him and what he does for them. But they don't want it in a way that's one, too much in your face, but two, really, they also want to make sure that the story itself is entertaining. And so when we launched into The Chosen and doing that series, and we crowdfunded that with them, we helped them raise over $10 million. It was this huge, crazy effort that was very, very exciting, but we did it with Dallas because we knew he could tell a story that was so engaging and different. That's why they say, get used to different over there, because they want people to realize this isn't your normal TV series about Jesus Christ. And all original content that Angel Studios is going to produce, it's going to be that same element of like high, like whatever you can see in terms of quality in Hollywood, we want it to be the same type of quality, but a story of values and that amplify life.
You know, before I go on to the next question, I really want to ask you, because there's a lot of people who still don't understand it. I know I'm not completely understanding it myself. How does the crowdfunding work? And is it just people that really want to support you and they give money and that's it? Or do they become like a little bit of an investor if there's any profits? Or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we created our model ironically because Disney sued us. So when we got sued by Disney, we were like, we're gonna die. This is over. And all of our customers were saying, no, please fight this. And they would donate money. And we had over $300,000 in donations over 3 months, which was great, but it was still a drop in the bucket as to what actually happened. And so we said, you know what, you guys are just wasting your money. And then there was this thing called the Jobs Act that was passed during that exact same time period where it allowed small companies to crowdfund, to where you gave equity, actual potential return on investment if the company is successful, for the crowd coming and investing in your project. And so we did a crowdfund for VidAngel, now Angel Studios, and we raised over $10 million in 5 days.
In 5 days? Wow. Like, let's talk about it. 5 days. That's incredible.
It was a miracle. That's why we actually named our company Angel Studios. It's named after the angel investors who saved our company.
Wow.
So Jordan, I was just about to ask you, what an incredible amount of money in such a short time. Could you talk more about that? You're saying to the world, people will say, well, okay, you just got lucky, or there was a huge demand for your films, but you're saying actually that was God. Just talk to us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way you can go through our history and know. There's never been a company, to my knowledge, that's ever lived through a lawsuit like that. And there's no way you can go through our history and say this was just happenstance. There was miracle after miracle after miracle. And so we are beyond grateful for that. But because we discovered this crowdfunding model, my brother Daniel, who's also their co-founder, calls and says, guys, this is how we fund original content. We can help creators create an entity, and then we can help them crowdfund their content. And that's what we did with Dallas. Is we all the investors in The Chosen have the potential of receiving a return, and it very much looks promising that they will. And so it's one of those things where we are so excited to be able to not only, it's not just about raising money, because you can go get capital for a good film idea all over Hollywood. Money's not the problem. It's that we believe that this goes a little deeper than money. When we were in the process of getting donations for VidAngel, now Angel Studios, that $300,000 over 3 months, that was people just donating, right? They were just donating. Right. It was exciting for them, and they wanted to keep us alive, and that was great. But what was really impactful is when you go from a donation to actual ownership, how that impacts people's psyche, and that they feel like they're co-creating with you. And when we were able to raise $10 million in 5 days, it was a clear sign that the difference between, ownership and donation is massive. And so when you looked at The Chosen, a large part of its success was predicated on the fact that we built this community of thousands upon thousands of people who are pushing it throughout the world, and now it's being seen by tens of millions of people.
And I think that's the point too, is the fact that you said pushing it. And I think it really shows that there is a community out there. There's a large number of people out there that really want that. And they're willing to support you and say, yes, we're going to stand with you and we're going to put our money behind you as well. And we are thrilled to be joining with you on that. So listen, we got a lot more to talk about and we're running out of time. So how about we take a break and stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back with Jordan from Angel Studios.
Would you like to hear a story?
I had a job at the FDA, reviewing new drug applications. They didn't like the questions I was asking. The FDA is corrupt. Bribery, off-the-books consulting fees, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I need proof.
And they likely tested it on prisoners in concentration camps. I want to start a new war.
All right, back with us is Jordan Harmon of Angel Studios, and I wanted to jump in there because you saw the trailer there of Pharma. This is fascinating, this true life story. Can you tell us a little bit about it and why you chose it?
Yeah, so you asked two really good questions. I'm going to answer your second one first, actually.
Okay.
So one of Angel's unique models is that as executives, we don't get to choose the content. And what I mean by that is everybody who's ever invested in any one of our original series, the Tuttle Twins, Freelancers, The Chosen, Drybar, whatever it may be, every one of those people becomes what we call angels. Those are the angel jury. There's over 50,000 of them and growing. And every creator that comes to us, we say, we want you to bring to us what we call a torch. It's a short film or a pilot episode, a piece of content that people can see and they can get excited about. And the reason we do this is because we can then go to the jury and say, hey, does this story amplify light? Because that's Angel's mission. Our mission is to tell stories that amplify light. And two, if this was never made into a film or a series, how would you feel? And so as long as the jury gives them the thumbs up on these questions, then Angel has the ability to make them into an Angel original and move them forward. But the reason we've done this is because we believe in the wisdom of crowds. We believe that the decisions the crowd makes is actually can be a lot more powerful than any executives. And we want this company to outlast us. We don't want this company in 20, 30, 40 years to become the exact thing we were trying to avoid. And so that was a huge part of this decision-making process. Ashley Bratcher, she's an incredible filmmaker. And so she came to us with this idea of Pharma, and it's about this woman during the 1960s who is a whistleblower in the FDA. She was, I believe, the first employee in the FDA, female employee in the FDA. And she started seeing stuff that she just thought was inappropriate. There was bribery, off the books consulting fees, and all these different things. And then she started seeing that a lot of the trials they were performing weren't statistically significant, and they weren't also, double blind trials. And there was a massive amount of issues with the data. And so she came out and said, this is wrong. And so anyway, it's just interesting that this was happening way back, in the 1960s with this brave woman who stepped forward. And how that is this is a story that we feel deserves as much spotlight today as ever.
Right on, Jordan. I love that you're able to take stories that are actually based on true stories and convey them to people in a way that's, yes, it's entertaining, but it also champions truth. That's great. And the other thing I loved about what you were just saying is that sometimes when I'm watching TV, I can feel like the big streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, kind of take what they want to tell people, and they're going to make me watch that because they've got more money than me. So I love what you're saying, that, you know what, our viewers have got to be enjoying this and supporting that. So I just appreciate that. But let me ask you this. How much of a battle is it to get faith-based content on the big screen?
It's actually not as hard as people think.
Really?
Getting faith-based content on the big screen with our model, because the way we've designed it, and that the jury gets to give us a thumbs up. So we don't have to worry about that, because I think, a larger percentage of the community as a whole is very Christian and wants to see content of these values. And then secondly, with it being that the crowd gets to come in and actually invest in the projects and actually gain equity in it. It makes it so that it's a clear sign with the Chosen and with all of our other projects that have been faith-based. It's a clear sign that there's so much latent demand for this and people that want to see this in such a powerful way that, the creator doesn't have to rely on a studio saying yes, yay or nay. It's no, I can just go to the crowd with Angel Studios and they're going to get my project to the finish line. And so there's not as many obstacles as you would think, as long as you're creating exceptionally engaging content. And so we're so excited to create a model that allows creators to connect directly with their audience, but also to tell stories that we believe will impact the world and culture.
Well, and I have another question talking about the idea of taking a book series, this educational program from the Tuttle Twins. Now you've made it into a TV series. I'm interested to know, how did that concept come into being? Because I took a look at it and I see there's very interesting topics about teaching kids in an adventure style way, almost like learning things about life by accident. How did that come into being? How did that get on the table? This is very different from a true life story.
For sure. My kids have been fans of the Tuttle Twins books for a long, long time. And so when we got the opportunity to make this into a TV series, it was an easy thumbs up from us, and the jury loved it. And so it was one of those things where we believe in freedom and economics. And so when those two principles are taught to children at a very young age, it can really change the outlook of life and future voters. And so the goal at Tuttle Twins is to reach over 100 million children.
Wow.
And so we want to really impact the world in a massive way. But the reason this story is very, very unique is that when these books, when they teach about freedom and economics, it's very value-based. It's not left, it's not right, it's not, it doesn't matter what political affiliation people have. It's just an entertaining series. And it's a co-viewing experience because they've written it in a way that every two jokes are for parents, and then there's a joke for kids. And they do this, it's kind of like The Simpsons, but not crude. And so it's like a mash between The Simpsons and the Magic School Bus, where kids are being super entertained and the parents are laughing about all the other jokes the kids don't understand. But it's really just a fun viewing experience. My kids love it a little too much. My 2-year-old will come in the morning at 6 a.m. and be like, "Dad, Tuttle Twins?" I'm like, no, we're not doing Tuttle Twins at 6 a.m. So.
You have a question you want to ask, Mitch?
Yeah, Jordan, I'm a movie guy. I'll be honest with you. During the pandemic, I watched movies because going outside was illegal. My friends, my school, my job, that's illegal. But what was still allowed was watching movies. What's your own favorite film, from oldies to modern? Just what are some movies that have inspired you?
My favorite film of all time is hands down It's a Wonderful Life. It is one of the most beautiful films ever made. As you go through life and have more and more experiences, that film becomes even more and more enriching. Every Christmas that I watch it with my children, my children always ask me, "Dad, are you sad? Why are you crying?" And so it's just a beautiful film about a wonderful, family who is trying their best, making a positive impact on their small community. And so that's by far my favorite film of all time. I really did like Top Gun that just came out recently.
Nice.
It was a fun movie, very enjoyable. It's nice to just see a film that was made to be enjoyable.
I got my daughter all excited because she's a pilot and all she wants to do is right on. Aerobatic flying, and I don't want her to. But anyway.
Jordan, can I ask you one more thing? It's cool. You said It's a Wonderful Life. I watched that with my dad every Christmas, and I just watched the new Top Gun. Speaking of those big movies, what's your take on these, just these big movies, massive budgets, everybody talks about them? What's your opinion on those?
Yeah, I think that they really they have so much impact on culture and society, whether for better or for worse. And so, one of the big issues with Hollywood's model is that because of the way it's structured, and I won't dive too deep into it, but there's some misalignment on incentives that the creator rarely gets paid a back end in terms of no matter how successful their project is. And anybody who's been in the creative space and in Hollywood is right now, if they're watching this, is nodding going, yes, I never get paid a back end. And so what happens is they inflate all their production budgets to where it costs way more than it probably should. And so you end up in this situation because that's the only time they're going to make money. It's not that they're trying to be dishonest. That's the only time they're going to make money. And so our model is that we do no matter where the revenue comes, a proper sharing, revenue sharing model with the creator, and that after costs, they get 2/3 and we get 1/3. And so that way, if the film's successful or the series is successful, they're successful. And the irony of this is we've had creators who came in and said, I've got this really cool series. And then they're like, it's going to cost $25 million to produce. And we're like, okay. And then we explain our model and they're like, you know what? I could probably shoot it for 7. And so it's just interesting how when you give them the proper incentives, the costs go down drastically as to where they're at today. And so I have no problem with all these big box office hits. I think a lot of them are fantastic. I think the ones that, if done properly, can be done for a lower budget. But that being said, I'm grateful for some positive entertainment that can let me put my mind on pause for a minute.
Well, I hear you there. Our time is up. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much for joining us today. Jordan, I would love to have you back with upcoming stuff and find out what's going on. But thank you so much for sharing about Angel Studios, Angel Films, and we look forward to more of your work.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
Jordan.
All right, stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back.
Adolf Hitler will not rest in turning his plans for imperialistic world conquest into actions.
You know, it's so interesting to see the kind of stories that they are covering in Angel Studios. So I have to ask you, what was your takeaway? What really stood out to you?
Julie, there were a lot of things. I think the biggest thing that Jordan shared that really stuck out to me is very interesting is what he wants to do is with the content that Angel Studios produces, he wants to make sure that, okay, this is what the viewers, the customers, the contributors actually want to see. And I think about, you go on Netflix, you go on Amazon, whatever, and a lot of the stuff they're pumping out, I'm saying, really? Like, who's asking to watch this, man? Who is like, yeah, good, finally this got created. So I'm excited to hear that here's a producer saying, okay, what do people want to watch and put their money towards? Why don't we make content like that?
I thought it was very interesting, too, just how quickly they came up with that amount of money. It just shows that, it wasn't like it took months. So it was almost as if someone was like, the world was going, yes, let's jump on board. And I think that speaks volumes to your point that people are looking for something that is hopeful. They're looking for something that's positive. And with everything that's going on in the world, they want to see, is it possible to see something? Just even like Top Gun. I know we talked about the big mega movies and how much we love like Top Gun and the whole true, like the value of the story there. I know it's not a true story, but it's just that it was good writing. We're looking for good writing. We're not looking for just a lot of nonsense.
And you know what else is cool is that Jordan was saying, okay, we've got to make shows and movies that they're truthful, they're hopeful, and they communicate good morals, but they've got to be entertaining. And so we kind of get it in our heads like, Christian media, you're compromising like some of the coolness or the wow factor. And I love that Jordan said, no, this has got to be entertaining and exciting while still being truthful and hopeful. That was great.
Yes, there's so much to cover, and I love his truth and conviction that they showed at the beginning there. And I think it's great to tell these stories that haven't been told yet, that we need to hear about. These are people's lives. But listen, we have so much to cover, and we have Eric Weir coming up. So stay with us, everyone. Eric Weir will have a good teach.
Hi, it's Eric Weir. It's great to be back with you again and begin to explore some more concepts, biblical concepts about money. One of my favorite verses I'll read right now is from Proverbs 11:24-25. One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers want. Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and one who waters will himself be watered. That's Proverbs 11:24-25. So what does that mean? In my seat, I've had the privilege of working with quite a few people of great wealth. And one thing I've noticed about them is they're all focused. They all are willing to work, but they're all, for the most part, they're generous. They give of their time and they give of their resources. That may be a surprise to a lot of people. But if you look at some of the wealthy people they don't profess to be Christ followers, some of the wealthiest people in the world, there's articles that I read about them giving all their wealth away at their passing, or the great majority. And they're very generous during their lifetime as well. So there's a lot of a harvest here that's very interesting. And there's something about giving that allows the money that we have not to really have rule over us. And it does away with our scarcity mentality, like there won't be enough if we give or we help other people. And it's kind of the same thing with working. We talk about do our work as unto the Lord. And when you look around any neighborhood, any area, you have haves and have-nots. And what I've experienced in working with people is you'll always have both. But the people who have, they tend to give more and to be more focused. So if we're a have not now, we're trying to figure out what can we do to be a have. Then one of the things I consider doing is looking at how you spend your money. Look at your check register, look at QuickBooks, see how you're doing, see the areas you can make improvement, and see if there's a chance for even a little bit of generosity. And I think the generosity introduces a point of humility and gratitude in our lives that also allows us to be more creative and find more opportunity. The Bible is also clear about to not covet. Don't covet what another person has. And that's something that's very difficult with social media. Most of us today are spending time, or our children are spending hours a day on Instagram or TikTok or any other form of social media. And we're beginning to look at other people's strengths and compare them to maybe our weaknesses, or saying we want to be like somebody else. And comparison is really a thief of joy. So whether we're working and we're trying to steward our resources, being focused on being responsible and being a steward, you really don't have time to worry about coveting what somebody else has. And a good way to view people who maybe possess a skill or something you don't have, instead of looking at them to covet, maybe try to find somebody who's been successful and look at them as a mentor and ask them how they did some of the things they did or what they do, and then give them a chance to bless you. And then in turn, as you continue to learn, maybe you have a chance to bless somebody else with what you learned, either or what you've invested or how you have grown your personal resources. Another question I get is being content. How can you be content, but also be ambitious or looking for opportunities to grow? Well, I think the idea is that God owns everything, and we're to be grateful for what we have gratitude, and give back. And at the same time, we're to be stewards and to use our skills, our resources, our intellect, our abilities to honor God. And when we do that, it's almost always the case that we begin to experience a form of prosperity as we apply our talents. And one of the things that I've heard said many times, and I find it really to be true, is that the greater the earnings that you have are typically because the bigger problems you're solving for other people. So it all goes back to the law of the harvest again. If you help enough other people get what they want, oftentimes you end up with what you're working for. Thank you.